We're starting this video just like the good old days. I got my iced coffee in hand, I'm in a 90-degree sunroom, and all is well. I'm so excited for today's tutorial. We're making some bow shorts. This is just a comfy pair of boxer shorts with little bows up the side seam. This is a really easy tutorial for you to either draft at home using a pair of shorts as a little template to draw up the pattern, and then we're gonna cut the fabric and sew it. Or if you already have a shorts pattern that you like, you can use that, and we're just gonna customize it a little to add the bows up the side seams as we go. So I hope you join us for this fun little tutorial, and let's get started. If you are using an existing pattern, maybe a store-bought pattern or one that you've already drafted, the important thing is to make sure that your side seams have at least 1/2 inch seam allowance. My side seams are exactly 1/2 inch seam allowance, and that worked perfectly for me. But if you want to draft this pattern with me, we are going to fly through this in just under 2 minutes. I'm using a pair of elastic shorts that I already own, and I'm going to trace the outline. Whenever we trace elastic shorts, we want to make sure to pull on the elastic waistband to make it nice and flat. This is going to give us the most accurate measurements. I am tracing all around exactly where the seam lines are. I'm going to flip the shorts over to the back side and do the same exact thing for the back. When you're tracing the back, you're going to need to pull out that crotch seam really far in order to trace the exact seam line. So go ahead and pull that little baby out and trace it all around. Now I want my shorts to be a little bit baggier than the shorts that I was just tracing, so I'm gonna add a little bit of width onto these shorts. I'm gonna blend my lines a little bit. I'm also adding some to the inseam as well as the side seam. Now I'm cross-checking my measurements just to make sure these shorts will fit me. So if you want to cross-check, this should be your waist measurement divided by 4 plus about 2 or 2.5 inches to add elastic later. And then I'm measuring about where my booty would be, like the widest part of the hips. This should be your hip measurement divided by 4 plus a little bit of extra wiggle room, because we want some wiggle room in these boxer shorts. Now I'm adding a little bit of room at the top to add the elastic later. You're going to want to add however wide the elastic is that you're using times 2. I'm going to be using 1 inch wide elastic, so I added 2 inches. Okay, the hard part is done. Now let's add our seam allowance. I'm adding 1/2 inch seam allowance to the side seam, to the center front seam, as well as the inseam. And at the bottom, I'll add 1 inch for hem allowance. This will be for the front of my shorts. And then I'm gonna do the same exact thing for the back side of the shorts. I'm adding a little bit of width to make my shorts a little bit more baggy. I'm adding 1/2 inch seam allowance, 1 inch hem allowance, and then I'm making sure to add the 2 inches at the top for my elastic. And the last step, you always wanna make sure your front and back shorts pieces match up at the side seam, because those will be connected later, as well as the inseam, because those will also be connected. So make sure those match in length and cut your pieces out. For fabric, I'm using this beautiful red gingham fabric. So my fabric is folded in half, right sides together. We need to cut 2 pieces for the back of the shorts and 2 pieces for the front of the shorts. And now I'm marking out the lines for the bow ties. So these need to be 2 inches wide by 12 inches long, and we need to cut 8 bow ties. All right, now let's start sewing. Before we begin, I would really recommend finishing the raw edges of the side seams and the inseams of your shorts first. You can use a zigzag stitch, pinking shears, an overcast stitch, or a serger. This is gonna help make everything really nice and neat as we go. So I'm gonna put one of my front pieces and one of my back pieces right sides together. And at that side seam, I'm gonna measure up about 8 inches and make a little mark here. We need to leave this opening in order to have this cute little opening in our side seam to add the bows later. So as we're sewing, we're gonna leave that bottom edge open. I'm also connecting the inseams. I'm putting those right sides together and pinning those down. So here I'm sewing that inseam, starting and ending with a back stitch. And now I'm sewing that side seam. I am making sure to start right where that pinned edge is, and I'm sewing up to the top of the shorts. Again, starting and ending with a back stitch. All right, now everything is sewn, but we still have this little opening, and it is looking so cute. I'm gonna do the same exact thing for the other leg. This is about the time I realized I should have finished the raw edges first, so here's me trying my absolute best to serge the raw edges to prevent them from fraying. Now it's time to connect our two pant legs. So I'm gonna flip one of the pant legs right side out, and I'm gonna put it inside the inside out pant leg. And what this is doing is putting our pant legs right sides together. I'm gonna match them up at that little inseam, so make sure those are perfectly matched up. I'll put a little pin there, and I'm gonna continue pinning up this little U-shaped crotch seam. Now we can sew that pinned edge. And since this is a curve, you know the drill, we need to clip our curve. So take your scissors, and all we need to do is cut some little triangles into the bottom half of the curve. So clip your little triangles, and what this does is this helps the shorts be able to move and go around the curves of the body a little bit easier. Once that's done, we can go ahead and finish this edge. So I'm gonna run this through my serger. I'm gonna flip my shorts over to reveal my beautiful work. And now we have the cutest little shorts. Next, it's time to move on to the little bow ties. So to prep this area, we need to hem this little opening to prevent it from fraying. So I'm gonna take my iron, and I'm gonna fold this little side seam in by about 1/4 of an inch. Basically half of whatever seam allowance you left. I left 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I'm gonna fold it in by 1/4 of an inch, press it down, and then I'm gonna fold it in again by 1/4 of an inch and press it down. I'm gonna do the same exact thing to the other side. And it gets a little bit weird the closer it gets to the top part of that V, because it's gonna kind of have to taper in a little bit, but do the best you can to press a really nice, neat edge and make everything blend nicely. I'm gonna put some clips to clip this in place. And now I'll take it to my sewing machine and sew this little V shape. So I'm gonna start at the bottom hem. I'm gonna start sewing up, taking my clips out as I go. As I get to the top of that little V shape, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna stop sewing, lower my needle into my fabric, lift the presser foot, pivot the fabric. I'm gonna make sure my fabric is nice and flat, drop the presser foot. I'm gonna sew straight across a few stitches, and then I'll do the same thing. Drop the needle into the fabric, lift the presser foot, pivot the fabric, drop the presser foot, and then keep sewing all the way down. And this gave us a really nice, neat hem on the outside of the fabric, and it also looks great on the inside of the fabric. I'm gonna press that hem nice and flat. Moving on to the hem of the shorts, I'm gonna do a regular double fold hem, so I'm just folding it up by 1/2 inch, pressing it down, and then folding it up again by 1/2 inch and pressing it down. I'm gonna go ahead and hem all along the bottom of the shorts. And now moving on to the elastic. I'm gonna take some 1 inch wide elastic, measure it to my waist to where it's nice and snug. And I also like to make sure that I'll be able to get the elastic off. So I wiggle it down over my hips. Once you get this measurement, go ahead and cut. It's always really helpful for me to take some tailor's chalk and to fold the elastic in half, mark that little halfway point, and then fold the elastic in quarters and mark those quarter points. So basically we'll have 3 marks on our elastic. Now taking my shorts, I'm gonna match that middle point up with the center front of the shorts. I'll pin that down, match the quarter point with the side seam, the other quarter point with the other side seam, and then I'll bring the elastic around to the back and pin it down. So now our elastic is pinned equidistant around our shorts. I'm gonna switch to a zigzag stitch. I'll keep my length on 2.5. My width, I'm gonna move this up to about a 5. Needle position in the middle, and tension depends on your fabric, but I am using a 4. I'll start sewing right here where the elastic starts. I'm gonna start by back stitching back and forth a few times so it's nice and secure. And this is the most important part with sewing elastic. You wanna make sure as you're sewing, you're gently pulling on the elastic. This is gonna create that nice gathered, cinched effect. So gently pull as you're sewing, and we're gonna sew all around the shorts. Once we get to the end, I'll backstitch a few times, and now our elastic is attached. To finish this raw edge, I'll fold the edge down once, and I'm gonna sew it all around. Again, gently pulling on the elastic as I'm sewing. And I left 2 inches for adding my elastic, so I'm gonna fold mine down one more time. This is gonna conceal that raw edge even more. And this time I'm using a straight stitch. I'm sewing really close to that bottom fold of the elastic. Again, gently pulling on the elastic as I'm sewing. And I'm making sure to sew in a really straight line because this one will actually show on the outside of the shorts. And we are almost done. Our last step is the bow ties. So I'm taking my strips, I'm gonna fold the edge in by 1/2 inch. I'll press it down, and then I'm folding the whole thing in half and pressing it down. And then I'm gonna fold each edge in to the middle point and press it. I'll fold one side in, and then I'll fold the other side in, pressing it nice and neat. And then I'll fold the whole thing in half and press it. This is gonna conceal all of our raw edges and create a really nice bow tie. So I'm gonna sew that little end that we folded in, and then I'll pivot and sew all the way down the long edge. So here I am pivoting down that long edge. And now our little bow ties are done. So I'm just placing them onto my shorts and figuring out how far apart I want them spaced. This is me so excited about how these are looking. So I figured out I wanted mine about 2 inches apart from each other. So I'm marking 2 inches up, and then I'm marking 4 inches up. I'll do that for both sides. And then I'll place that raw edge of the bow tie down. I'll secure it in place with a clip or a pin. Once I have all my bow ties in place, I'm gonna go ahead and sew those down. I also found using a pin really helped. So maybe use a pin for this and not clips like I did. I'm gonna go ahead and sew back and forth a few times to make this nice and secure. And now our bow ties are connected. And look at how cute these little shorts are. I love these so, so much. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was easy for you to follow along with, and I hope you have yourself a cute little pair of bow shorts. Next, I really want to make this into a pants version. I don't know. It sounds a little bit crazy, but it kind of sounds cute. If you like this video, give it a little thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok for more sewing fun. Thanks for watching, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!